it's really hard to release music. Um, that's not in the sense that it's hard to find a distribution service to get music online in some way, to get music out to people where they can hear it. That's really easy. You can record something on your phone, on anything, on your computer, whatever, and get it out there. This is very much the opposite of a tutorial on how to release music and the complexity involved with the functional parts behind getting music so that people can hear it. The weight of releasing music. There's a certain visual that I never really considered, and it's that you're letting it go in the same way that you would let a fish go back into the ocean. You would let go of reins for something to leave. I guess, I don't know. You would let go of control of the music and let it just be what it is, not have some sort of control over it anymore. And that's something that I've been thinking about off and on for a while. And it's something that I'm not really sure there's any particular cure for besides just doing it, taking the action. I particularly, to speak from my own experience, have a really hard time releasing music in the sense that I feel that as time continues, I should be improving regardless of the amount of time or energy I put into the thing that I'm doing, whatever that is. I grew up speaking French. I lived in France and in Belgium for 16 total years of my life. And my French is worse than it ever has been. I never use it. And that's just as a result of me never using it and not being in a country where I would need to speak French. And I haven't been for, besides visiting, about 12 years. Similarly, with music, I played for my whole life, have played some kind of instrument, more or less, and have spent less time on it in the past couple of years than I would have in one single year or several months in high school. And back in high school, also, the learning curve was a lot steeper or less steep. It's just the improvement happened a lot faster because I was learning breadth of things that take refinement, and it's hard to tell the difference between something being refined and something being just good or complicated. And so for a long time, I improved the complications of things I could do, the amount of things I could do, but I wasn't necessarily getting better at each of those things. So now I can still do roughly about the same amounts of things as I could over a decade ago. But I'm slowly getting better at doing them well and technically correctly to some degree. But that's demoralizing and it's demotivating, and it feels like progress isn't happening at the same rate as it was, because in a lot of ways it's not. And in terms of working on music, there's similarly an expectation that I would be doing better and making better stuff now than I ever have been before. But again, I'm not putting in the time that I used to put in high school. I didn't do homework as often as I should have, and so I just spent so much time working on music. And frankly, the skills that I have now, things do sound a lot better than they did back then, but to the degree that I think they should, I don't know. And the other part of this is not just my expectations for myself, but what I assume others' expectations are of me. I went to school for audio production. I went to Middle Tennessee State University and, took classes in Studio A and Studio B and learned how to do things. Honestly, the worst part of it, or the part that makes me feel just have a hard time in some ways with all this, is because I worked in the recording industry office and I was friends with a lot of the staff. My senior year, I was nominated as the Student of the Year for recording production for the recording industry department, which is great. And there was an award associated with that, which helped me buy a car, which was, I mean, it was a kind of junky car, all things considered. Not junky, just old. But that was great for then. But it means that I expect of myself to be the caliber of a student that would have been student of the year in the recording industry department. And yeah, I just don't know that that's the case, you know? So as I work on music now, I don't even get to the point where I finish something very often, because as I just start and face roadblocks, it's easy to give up because I'm demotivated by not being as good at a certain part of it as I'd like to be. So this video, honestly, I'm making this more for myself than anything else. It feels helpful to kind of clear the air in some ways, to just get this out there. I think what I need to do for myself is have a palate cleanse, release a bunch of music, and I think it's what I'll probably do, I hope, is get some things to the point where I feel okay enough about them, and they set my baseline for where I'm at today, even if that's lower than I'd like it to be. I have a lot of songs that are mostly completed, some quite completed even, but I don't know that I have any or could have any that feel up to the standards that I would expect of myself. And so then comes the, you know, actual process of releasing music, which practically speaking is very easy, but emotionally is hard, because when I'm listening to music that I make, I can judge it however I'd like to. I can be harsh on it, but there's room for improvement, and I can be critical, or I can even be excited about it and feel like it's pretty good. But as soon as it's out there, other people can do those things. And I mean, you know, it'd be great if I got some feedback. Maybe the worst thing would be to get absolutely no feedback. I don't even know, you know. Who I am now is a very different person to who I was when I was releasing music frequently, which was, you know, 12 years ago. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And I think if there's anything, if you're watching this for your own sake, and this is something that resonates with you at all, I would say a couple of things that have kind of brought me to this point as well. Is there's some quote by, I think, Martha Graham, that I'm not going to quote because I don't know it off the top of my head and I don't feel like looking it up. But the important part and the inspiring part to me is that we all have a voice, musically, creatively, otherwise, just we all kind of have our own voice. We all have something to contribute that nobody else is going to contribute. And whether it's worse or better than somebody else is just super irrelevant. And like, that's something that I definitely recognize. You know, I've done some things, written some songs, created things that have been derivative of others. And even in the derivative things, which I would be critical of, there is something to be said even there, that it's different. There are songs that I've written with the intentions of sounding as much like this other thing as possible, and because I didn't measure up to that other thing, something else got created, and that's cool. You know, it took, I think, a while to be able to step back from it and then see that song and see the thing that I created and how it doesn't measure up, but in that there's uniqueness, and that's something to cherish, I think. So likewise, I think, you know, there's even topics that I, you know, depression, for example, is something that I've dealt with a significant amount, especially in just, you know, some hard times. And that's something that I think I don't think I'm particularly equipped to talk about in a way that others aren't, but it's something that any more voices talking about something important can be valuable if that allows somebody else to feel seen or feel heard. So that would be my encouragement to you and also to myself, to actually release music, creative projects, whatever, yourself. um, let it go and let it be given to somebody else, and it'll be what it is to them. I know that sounds really vague and floaty, but I think that's important still for it to be, yeah, for whatever you create to be more than it ever could have been if it sat on your hard drive like so many projects of mine have. That's about it. So yeah, I don't know. I hope you have a good day. And if you release any things, I'd love for you to even let me know in the comments, because we'd just be curious on what impact even this has, releasing. I mean, this is just a random Tuesday. So yeah, this is very unscripted, so we'll see. All right, have a good day.